Let's see if I can grab the screen moving. Yeah, so my name is Maria Fung, and I'm here to basically talk to you about how you can use AI as part of building a robust cybersecurity program, as well as using AI to assess risk within your organization. So a bit about myself. My name is Maria. I work at Darktrace. We've been around for almost 10 years now. Next year will be a really, really big year for us, and it's been a wild ride. And we've been really, really successful as a company. We've gone through an IPO. And what's the secret of our success is the cutting edge innovation that we've been able to make in the AI space and applying it to real world problems. And so our Cyber AI Research Center is at the heartblood of everything that we produce. We've got a wide range of multidisciplinary, really, really well-educated folks, ranging from 80 master's degrees to over 30 doctorates in linguistics and data science to astrophysics. And so we take a broad range of ideas and apply them. And a lot of things don't work out, as a lot of you guys know in research, but the ones that really do really, really resonate with our customers. And you can even check out some of the stuff that has failed, but might have future implications in our blog on our website. But one of the things that we're seeing, and one of the big ideas that I want to talk to you about, is how do you assess what good AI looks like in practice for whatever solution that you're doing. And so we've gone through a lot of talk about AI, similar to how we've gone through a lot of talk about cloud computing. And that first phase was really, really data-centric. And there's a couple main problems that AI is really, really good at solving, and a couple components that need to be there for AI to be successful as a solution. So the first one is the idea of big data, of processing large volumes of whatever it is, traffic, images, text. In a cybersecurity perspective, it could be events, and making sense of all of that. And that usually requires a lot of expertise, resources. We've got a resource shortage for talent, I know. And it also takes a lot of time, right? So those are two really, really big problems that AI is really, really good at solving. And the ability to detect what's unusual within a large data set is something that self-learning AI is uniquely good at. But the second piece, in order to turn it into something practical, is that it needs to be actionable, right? So AI on its own, it tells you things. If you can't do anything with it, it's not going to be useful. And so the second piece is to be able to use AI to try some sort of new action business impact. And the third piece, which I think a lot of people didn't think about when they were trying to innovate using AI, is this idea of trust. How can we trust what the AI has surfaced, what it's suggested, and how do I, full confidence, take action on that, right? Nowhere is it more obvious than in healthcare. There's so many projects where people spent multi-million, multi-year projects to, let's say, work on cancer diagnosis. But that wasn't something that doctors or patients were really quite ready for. And so they needed to figure out a different use case that was a bit more trustworthy. And so having AI that shows you how it came to a conclusion, explains exactly what indicators that it thought of to detect and to respond in terms of action are really, really critical. And then the last piece, which I think is something that we slowly started to discover throughout our work here, is the ability of the AI to amplify, to feed into the other existing systems out there. Because no system works in isolation. And so you could have everything that's really, really great with a piece of AI, but if it doesn't feed into the rest of the ecosystem, then it's not able to build on top of the rest of the leverage here. And so all of these qualities are things that we at Darktrace have built in to our technology vision itself. So when we're applying the concept of AI to cybersecurity and to the idea of cyber risk, you can think of yourselves walking through the day in the life of a security analyst, for example. They're typically looking through maybe millions of events, whether it's from CloudTrail, whether it's from just logs that are happening from network traffic in VPCs, right? There's so much there to look at that they need to be able to figure out what's the most important, what's the most pressing, to be able to not only find that potential needle in a haystack, but then also to be able to action on it in a timely way, right? And never is it more obvious that in the cloud that the speed of things really, really matter. in a normal enterprise, you might have an attacker who is there for a couple weeks before they can figure out what's going on. In the cloud, everything is easy, available, and accessed, both for your end users as well as for any potential compromise. So that speed of being able to take action is really, really critical. And then when we're thinking about, okay, when we're looking at risk, which is what all of these feed into, how can we try and prevent some of these security incidents from happening? Right, so we typically see people doing things like security engagements, like pen tests, or red team exercises, maybe once every year if you're lucky, quarter if you've got a big budget. And those all feed in to hopefully the rest of the system, which drives action items. And so there's also the idea of healing and returning things back to normal. This idea of recovery, which is coming as well. But the whole idea of all of the AI that I've just talked about, the core concepts, is to be able to scale quickly as your company grows its cloud footprint, as long as you're changing what your digital environment looks like, to be able to give you actionable insights that you can take right away, to be able to help prioritize and understand which are the areas that are the potential highest risk. And to be able to do any one of these things in itself using AI is already a win. It's a big thing. But when we can feed all of the inputs and output into each other, into this robust feedback system, this is where the sum of its parts is able to amplify all the different types of AIs that we're talking about here. So just to quickly summarize what we're all about here at Darktrace is, our mission here is to free the world of cyber disruption. And how we're doing that is to be able to build a bespoke understanding using AI of the digital ecosystem. So things are always changing in your environment as you guys are moving to cloud. The attacker landscape is changing. There's more things in the news than ever before. And so how can we take this end-to-end approach, not just to identify things and respond as they happen, but proactively try to stop those things from happening? And that's, I think, something that's really, really critical, especially as people are expanding their footprint, not just to be in the cloud in AWS. Sure, lots of folks who are starting out now have that nice advantage, but for those of you who are migrating, who maybe have multi-cloud architectures, this is something that you need to be able to apply across the whole digital ecosystem so that you don't have multiple different vendors that you need to manage. You don't have security just for endpoint, just for cloud, just for your on-premise environments. And the whole idea here is that it needs to be a bit of a vendor-agnostic tool that is able to work with whoever you're trying to plug and play and move around. So let's talk a bit about the specifics of how we deploy this, since we are at an AWS conference. So the idea of AWS is that we are also cloud native if you also choose to be cloud native. We can ingest traffic from users, from infrastructure, from the platform, whether we're taking advantage of things like VPC mirroring, or leveraging Terraform or CloudFormation templates to quick start your deployment. We're accessible on the AWS Marketplace. We're a trusted partner of AWS as well. And we work with whatever technologies that you're building in the cloud to scale, whether it's S3, EC2 instances, of course, or if you're diving into things like Lambdas, Athena, containers, and all of that is something that I think as you're looking to expand your cloud footprint or maximize the value that you're getting from each of those cloud services that you're using, it's very, very important to think about how are we securing it, and how can we scale and do all of this in real time as all of that evolves as well. So that kind of leads me to the big idea here, which is we've been talking at Darktrace for a while about applying all of the different AI techniques that we've talked about to detection, to response. But when we think about this from a risk perspective, I'm sure that this is a never-ending struggle from all of the CISOs, CIOs, and even conversations with chief risk officers that we're starting to have, where they're trying to map out what is important to their organization, what is even out there in their organization as things continually grow. Are those systems secure? What are the CVEs associated with it? What do I need to make sure that I patch first? Are there interesting security incidents tied to some of these events as well that may or may not be relevant to my organization, looking at that attack surface. And then I talked a bit about this as well, looking at either pen testing or simulating what it looks like. And the whole idea, kind of as Scott was alluding to in the intro here, is we can use AI, since this is such a continuous and ever-changing problem that takes a lot of time and processing, and use AI to deliver results in that same space as well. And so you can take a look at it from two different angles, right? So attackers are starting and they are using tools like this. So how can we empower security teams to take advantage of those same technologies? And so if we're looking at things from an outside-in perspective, coming back to those four tenets of what's really, really important in AI, that first piece is being able to identify what's out there and to be able to figure out, okay, what's yours and what's not. So using Darktrace, we use a zero-scope approach where we scour the internet using open and closed sources. So we could be, if you're already using things like Shodan, using that as something that feeds in. But we have a lot of proprietary sources that feed into this massive data lake that we're continually updating in real time. So as your digital footprint increases, as you're deploying more things into the cloud and you have more web-facing assets, you have an idea of what you own that's out there and each of the technical vulnerabilities that are out there. Because these are entry points into the organization. So when we look at this from a risk profile, we look at it from the exposure side of things. So how likely and how much impact are both things that get quantified using AI to prioritize amongst the huge list of what you have out there from a web-facing asset standpoint. And then the other flip side, which is when I was talking a bit about using this AI piece to learn from what it already has, if we've already got a great idea of what's happening on the network, it'd be remiss for us not to play out some scenarios of where is the biggest risk, looking at both likelihood and impact. And so looking at the attack surface is one entry point, but devices themselves are another entry point if they have vulnerabilities associated with them. And so looking at all of the different attack paths that could occur internal to your organization and playing through the scenario that a red team or a pen testing exercise would do, but continuously and in real time. So you don't have to wait for one of those reports to tell you what's wrong. The system already updates this in real time all the time to prioritize these events. There's also the ability, you've seen this in your inbox as well, the ability to take a look at what it might look like in your organization. There's this idea of this business email compromise, which are these very, very targeted spear phishing attacks. And so we've applied AI there as well to be able to help engage with users, help you play out some of these scenarios. And the overall goal of the Darktrace Prevent side of the platform here is to be able to tell you and help you spend the limited amount of time or resources in the areas that will make the most impact. I think I have some weird things here, but so the whole idea here is to help harden your systems. And I think one of the big things that this will empower you to do is if you're thinking about cybersecurity events from a risk perspective, then it gives you a seat at the table, because these are things that CISOs, CIOs, chief risk officers, executives, boards really, really care about, is what is the risk to the organization? Where is it that there's a device or an entry point or a path that is the highest risk? And we can play out some of the use cases that come out from this. I don't have crazy amounts of time, but happily to talk more if you guys want afterwards. But there was an engagement that we're doing in a trial looking at this Prevent platform. And during the trial, we talked to a CISO saying, hey, we found this web asset. It looks like it's an exposed S3 bucket. And that's all we told them. And they went back to their internal teams, did some digging, because they had no idea what it was. So we could talk about that use case of shadow IT, right? Somebody went out there and just bought things that are tied to your overall organization. So it's hard to secure what you don't know. But what they found out from doing a little bit more internal digging is that this was actually a super secret research project And the data set in that S3 bucket was part of their proprietary data set that they were using as part of doing research. And so now we can think about looking at this from a lens of, sure, it was potentially a misconfiguration that caused it. There was maybe a potential shadow IT, someone had budget, but then you can also translate into things that the execs care about, right? Which is a competitive advantage. And we can see this on end-to-end as well, where we've been able to look at two what should be similar devices. We did another engagement looking at the end-to-end product internally, where we had two different domain controllers. One was a failover, kind of backup domain controller. One was the regular production one. And on surface level, they should be the same. But looking at it end-to-end and trying to, this was somehow highlighted as the biggest risk to the organization. And the reason that it was because one of the patches was somehow not applied to a legacy system, which made it really, really critical in terms of a vulnerability. And so when we're looking at limited time and resources, we want to be spending it so that if it does fail over, then this isn't the biggest exposure point to the organization. So in short here, I think if you haven't started to think about how do you assess what a good AI solution looks like, hopefully it's one that you're looking to apply to cybersecurity, one that has the ability to build out a unique understanding of your organization as your organization change, is working in real time continuously, has the ability to give actionable insights, is one that you can trust and can help explain exactly how it came to that conclusion and what's going on, and one that holistically augments into everything else to be able to harden your systems and protect against a cyber risk so that when it does occur, you guys are fully prepared for what happens. Anyways, this is the end of my session here, so thank you so much for your time. I really, really appreciate it since I know there's tons going on with all the free goodies out there. And if you guys have any questions, happy to talk. Our booth is in that corner there near the pink people. I work at Darktrace, but happy to answer any further questions or just have a longer chat if you guys like. Take care.